Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on the new patch notes that have just been released. Now these patch notes are kind of long, and because there are two champion reworks, and more specifically there were two jungle champion reworks, I'm going to be, this video on its own is going to be talking about Sejuani and Trundle, the new Sejuani and Trundle, what I think about them, how I think their roles will be, whether I think they'll be any good, just the changes in general. So to start off with, let's talk a bit about Sejuani. Let's see how Sejuani has changed. So now her passive, a Frost Armor passive. As always, by the way, these notes will be in the description. I'm going to be referring back to the LoL wiki page as well, because that just has a bit more detail. These patch notes aren't necessarily very detailed, so I might be switching over, but I'll link both of those links in the description. So for her passive, basically, whenever she damages an enemy with an ability or a basic attack, she gains bonus armor and reduces movement slowing effects on her for short duration. Now that amount is 10, 15, 20, 25 armor, and this goes from at level 1 it's 10, at level 7 it's 15, level 12 20, at level 17 at 25, and I presume it's the exact same for the movement slowing effects. And one of Sejuani's biggest problems back in the day was that she was extremely weak. Like, her role was to be a tank, and her kit provided her no benefits for being a tank. I mean that as in, she did not get any tank stats. Like, there was nothing about her kit which helped her. Like, there were no shields, no free stats, nothing that really helped her to be a tank. So all your tankiness had to come from your items, which meant that early on you were very, very weak and very, very squishy, very easily invaded, and you lost a lot of health on your first clear. And that was always Sejuani's problem. She cleared pretty quickly, but she lost a lot of health. So this passive should help her with that, give her a bit more armor for when she is clearing. Her Q now is that Sejuani, she will charge forward and she'll knock someone into the air. It's a bit like Vi's Q, I suppose you could say. It's very similar to that, as in how it works. Like, she will charge forward, and then when she hits someone, she will stop charging. So exactly like Vi's Q. To that extent, of course, the ability itself is very different, because Sejuani does percentage, here it is, percentage health damage, is it? I believe so, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, there you go, a percentage of the target's maximum health, which means she'll be clearing a lot quicker as well, because this damage will really hurt the buffs, it'll really hurt Dragon, it'll really hurt Baron, because those creeps have a lot of health. So that's quite nice, and the fact that it knocks people up as well gives her just a bit of extra CC. Her W is like a basic attack, an auto attack reset, and then after she's hit someone with her W, she'll like spin her flail around above her head and like do AoE damage, very similar to her old ability. But again, I believe this does does extra damage based off your health rather than the enemy's health, so that incentivizes you to buy tank stats, which obviously is what you want to be doing when you're playing Sejuani. And then her E is very similar to how it was before. There's no real change here. Basically, now Sejuani's old passive was that your, what was it? It was your basic attack would apply Frost. It would apply basically a 10% slow, a 10% move speed slow, and also I believe it was your Q would apply Frost as well, and maybe your ultimate. But now they've changed her, they moved her old passive to her E, and they made it so that every ability and every base and all your basic attacks apply Frost, which, so they've improved the passive and they've moved it to an ability and given her another passive. So this is a huge buff, which this is something I think was very, very needed. The fact that her W didn't actually like frost anyone was really bad for Sejuani. It really should have frosted people, and it does now, so that's really good. And then you activate it and you slow everyone around you for a huge amount. Let's see what it is. It is 50% all the way up to 70%. And you just do some AoE damage, and it lasts quite long as well. Max rank, 70% slow, AoE slow mind you, for 3 seconds is quite good. Now her ultimate is kind of Sejuani's biggest saving grace for me. The only reason why she was particularly viable beforehand, or at least why I thought she was okay before, was her ultimate. You would launch it at someone, and then the range was huge, and it would explode and just stun everyone around it. It didn't even need to hit anyone, and it would just stun everyone. It was like a really, really, really good skill. They've changed it slightly, because now if you miss people, you don't stun everyone anymore, you just slow them. But I believe it's pretty much the same thing, except what I mentioned just now is the only change. However, the slow duration is more like, if you missed people beforehand, you would only like stun them for like a second, but now you don't stun them, but you slow them for like double that at max rank. So that's good. I don't think it's, I don't know whether I would prefer how it was. I actually, this is a 90% slow, so it's pretty much like a stun, let's be honest. Like basically a stun, apart from, you know, people who can just jump away with something, you know, like with gap closers. But it's basically a stun, so it's pretty much the same ability. Yeah, it's pretty much the same ability, so I can't really complain about that too much. Now, do I think Sejuani, obviously this is a huge buff for her, and I think she'll be pretty good. I think she'll be really good. I don't know if she'll be amazing. Only time will tell with that. I think she will still have a similar amount of problems, and that is that she doesn't have any sustain, but it depends how much damage she puts out. Like, if her W does loads of damage, like her WE combo does loads of damage, then yeah, I think she'll be very, very strong. But she may not do a lot of damage. That's the only problem. And if she doesn't do a lot of damage, she'll have the same problems as she did before, where she was really, really easily invaded. And if she is easily invaded, she's not going to have a very fun time, so we'll see. But she's going to be strong regardless, and she may even see competitive play almost purely because of her ultimate. Her Q lets her get away with quite a few things, just like jumping over walls and stuff like that. And her ultimate is a great engage tool, so we may see her in competitive play just like that. Now, moving on to Trundle. Trundle basically is exactly the same. Like, they haven't changed too much about him. They've changed the names, but they haven't changed too much. His passive is exactly the same, which heals you for a percentage of the dead. So when something dies around you, a percentage of its health heals you, something like that. Well, that's exactly what it does, so yeah. And his Q now scales nicer with attack damage. Not too much, but a little bit nicer with attack damage. And yeah, so it basically does more damage at later ranks. Also slows someone for 75%, but for 0.1 seconds, so it's kind of cool, but not overly useful, but still quite nice. And his W now increases the healing done to him, and increases his attack speed as well by quite a lot when you get it up in ranks. But it doesn't grant you tenacity anymore, which is kind of a shame, because Trundle was really, really easily kited. And the fact that you were hard to kite when you had your W down was really nice. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd probably prefer the tenacity over the increased healing personally. I think your passive gives you enough healing that you didn't really need, at least when you're clearing, you don't need the extra healing on your W. But it's quite interesting, like in team fights, you'll get a bit of extra healing, but so I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to say too much about that, because obviously I could be completely wrong. Pillar of Ice is exactly the same as before, except the duration has been increased very slightly, so that doesn't really matter. But this, in my opinion, is a huge change, and I really like this change. It now interrupts channels, so if you get dislodged by his Pillar of Ice, his dildo of ice, I suppose it can't be the dildo of filth anymore, then it's going to interrupt any channels you might have, which is really cool. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're displaced, why shouldn't it interrupt you? I think that's nice, and it also means that you can like interrupt people's recalls from like miles away. Good grief, puberty too strong, from miles away if you hit your E on them. So that would be pretty cool. And also Subjugate, which is his ultimate, he now does he doesn't do a flat amount of like drain anymore. It now does 20% at rank 1 of their max health instantly as a drain, and then 20% of their armor and magic resist instantly. And then over 4 seconds, you get all of this stuff doubled again. Like, it doesn't say it here, but you do. You drain the same amount here. You drain more magic resist here. The LoL wiki confirms the magic resist thing, where it doesn't really, like, let's see. LoL wiki here says you drain 40% of their armor and magic resist, half immediately and half over 40 seconds. But it's kind of worded poorly, so I'm not sure whether that works with the health. But then when you look in the client itself, it says you steal percentage of their health, armor, magic resist, and over the next 3 seconds, you double what you've stolen. So that's the way it goes. And so that's really nice. Like 20, like yeah, the percentages are just really nice for those pure tanks. I mean, you can just shove this on a tank and it'll really like wither them down. And obviously, not only does it hurt them more, but it helps you more as well. So that's really cool. Now I figured for like build, like Trundle's going to be really good. He's already okay. Well, he was already fine. Like, if you mained a Trundle before this change, there was nothing wrong with that. He was fine. He was good, but he kind of lacked a certain something, because he didn't really give much to the team. And this drain on these tanks, especially considering the tank meta is so big right now, is going to really hurt. Not only does it hurt the tanks, it really helps Trundle. Like, the stronger target you put this on, then the more benefit you gain. And because with your W you get increased healing, and you're draining health with your ultimate, you're going to get healed for even more. I think it will be like a really funny kind of like item build where you buy like Spirit Visage is obviously going to be quite good on him if you need to buy it. Like, pretty much the same reason why it's really good on Hecarim. Very similar there. And that Spirit Visage, and then you buy something like a Blade of the Ruined King, which would be a really good item on Trundle as well, just because I think it would fit his role quite nicely, and you'd be able to glue onto people with the Actimate. What the hell? That is a word I've completely made up, a mix between Activate and Ultimate. Okay, I don't know why I said that word. With the active, bloody hell, making words up. It's too early to do these videos. With the active, it's really nice on Trundle for sticking onto people and like getting better health, all that kind of stuff. So with a Spirit Visage, with your W down, with your ultimate on them, and a Blade of the Ruined King as well, that would just be like some insane amounts of regen, which would make for a pretty funny build. And to be honest, like, people have builds which are just broken, you know, like with Hecarim would have a Frozen Fist and a Spirit of the Elder Lizard, and you'd rush that every game on him. You wouldn't be able to rush it on everyone else, but that build itself on Hecarim was really funny, like really strong. Trundle might be really good with Blade of the Ruined King and Spirit Visage as well. But Frozen Fist on Trundle is going to be like a really nice item on him. His Q is such a low cooldown, and it's like an auto attack amplifier, an on hit effect, which means that your Q is going to proc your Sheen effect every single time. And so if you can time that with the AoE slow, oh my goodness, it's just going to be so strong. Like, it's going to be core on Trundle. That Iceborne Gauntlet is going to be a core item on Trundle. Really nice item on him. You just build tank, you build Iceborne Gauntlet, and it would just be sick. I think what I was saying about the Blade of the Ruined King was kind of jokey, but that would be a really funny build as well. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing a little bit. That's all I really want to say about on this video, about the Trundle and Sejuani changes. They look in theory to be some really nice changes, and I'm really looking forward to playing these champions. Trundle I always liked as well, and I kind of like the new models they've given him as well, so that's kind of cool. I don't know, we'll see about Sejuani. She's obviously going to be a good champion, but it just depends. It depends how she is early, because Sejuani outside of early game was not that bad at all, really. But because her early was so god awful and really easy to manipulate, if you are an enemy jungler just invading her and stuff like that, counter ganking her 24/7, then that was where that was very punishing to be playing Sejuani. So hopefully now that changes, and she gets a bit better, and she'll see more play. But that's all I wanted to say, guys. As always, all of the links that I mentioned, so this page, which I'm looking at now, will be in the description. Sejuani's page will be in the description. Trundle's page will be in the description. You can look them all up and just have a look for yourself. And so yeah, that's all I want to say, guys. Thanks for watching. Come like me on Facebook or Twitch, Twitter, and Nook if you wish to do all that stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.